Hello, this is Richard Vazquez MD. I'm your host. I'm going to present to you an interesting explainer video that we created using Google AI Studio. What we did was we looked at the work done by Moeller et al. In an article that they published last month in Surgical Endoscopy. Does the surgical safety checklist need a co-pilot? Checklists are everywhere in surgery. We check boxes, say words, move on. But here's the paradox. Despite all the right boxes being ticked, errors still happen. This is the checklist paradox. When the appearance of safety masks gaps in communication, in teamwork, and accountability, human factors creep in. Compliance erodes under pressure, and sometimes tragically, another event slips through. That's why I believe every surgical team needs a co-pilot for safety. SafeStart was built for this reason, closing gaps that checklists can't catch, providing time-stamped accountability, who did what, when, and where, and protecting patients before they ever reach the operating room. I've spent decades in surgery, and I've seen checklists fail. What matters most is creating systems that are reliable, resilient, and human-centered. I invite you to watch my new short explainer video on the checklist paradox, and let's start a conversation about how we can move beyond checking the boxes to true patient safety. Thank you for your attention.
Welcome to the explainer. In something as high stakes as surgery, a simple checklist is supposed to be this amazing safety net, right? To prevent, catastrophic errors. But what if the way we track that checklist is actually creating a dangerous illusion of safety? Today, we're digging into the surprising and frankly kind of shocking gap between safety on paper and what's really happening in practice. So today, we're diving deep into the surgical safety checklist. This is a tool that is supposed to be a lifeline for patients, but a recent study put it under a powerful new microscope. And honestly, its findings challenge everything we thought we knew about how safety is measured in the operating room. All right, first things first. To really get what's going on with this paradox, we need to understand the checklist itself, what it is, and why it's considered so incredibly important in operating rooms all over the world. Okay, so back in 2008, the World Health Organization introduced this thing. And the idea, it was just brilliant in its simplicity. They wanted to create a single standard tool to help surgical teams talk to each other and, catch potential errors before they happen. And it totally caught on. It's been adopted in hospitals pretty much everywhere. So how does it work? Well, the whole thing is built around three really critical moments. You can think of them as structured team huddles. First, there's the sign-in, which happens before the patient is even put to sleep. Then you've got the timeout, which is a final pause right before the first incision is made. And finally, the sign-out to wrap everything up. Each one of these phases is a deliberate chance for the entire team to stop, focus, and get on the exact same page. So with a mandatory tool like this being used everywhere, hospitals obviously need to track it, right? The big question is, how are they actually doing that? Well, for most hospitals, the official story is kept right inside the patient's electronic medical record, the EMR. There's a circulating nurse in the operating room, and it's their job to tick off each and every item as it's supposedly completed. And what do those official records show? Well, according to this 2021 study out of Denmark, they looked fantastic. Nearly perfect. The checklist quality score, which is basically just the percentage of items completed, was clocking in at almost 90%. Think about that. An 89% quality score suggests that these surgical teams are consistently, almost perfectly, completing all the critical safety steps designed to protect the patient. On paper, this looks like a massive success story. But is that the whole story? But the researchers behind this study, they wanted to go deeper. They wanted to look beyond the official record. And to see what was really going on, they brought in a pretty powerful new tool. Yeah, think of it literally like a flight recorder, but for the operating room. It's called the OR Black Box. It's a whole system of cameras and microphones that captures everything. Everything said, everything done, giving this complete, unbiased, objective picture of what actually happened during the surgery. No filters, no bias, just the raw reality. And this, right here, led the researchers to the central, most crucial question of their entire study. Does the official story, the one so neatly documented in the medical record, actually match the reality that they captured on camera? The answer was just shocking. The actual quality score, the one they observed on the video recordings, was only 47%. 47. That is a massive drop from the 89% that was being reported. It means less than half of the safety items were actually being completed. And look, this isn't just a small difference. It's a chasm, an absolute gulf between the two. What was being documented and what was actually being done, they were two profoundly different stories. And when you start to look at specific checklist items, the gap becomes even more alarming. Get this. Presentation of team members was documented as done 96% of the time. But on video, it only happened in 7% of cases. And this is the real stunner. Confirming correct patient positioning was ticked off in 96% of the records. But verbally confirmed on video, 0% of the time. 0. Critical safety steps were just being skipped, even while they were being marked as complete. So you have to be asking, how could a gap this huge even exist, right? Well, the answer isn't about blaming people or assuming they have bad intentions. It's about a really fundamental concept in how complex systems, like an operating room, actually work. Yeah, the study really puts a spotlight on the difference between work as imagined, that's the perfect by-the-book procedure we all assume is happening, and work as done, which is how real teams adapt to the real-world pressures and chaos of a live operating room. And the video revealed exactly why this happens. See, the checklist wasn't some focused team huddle. It was often a totally unstructured process, with people doing other tasks at the same time. The team wasn't always fully paused and engaged. And, get this, sometimes key people, like the lead surgeon, weren't even in the room. The focus had subtly, almost invisibly, shifted from doing the safety checks to just documenting them, ticking the box. Okay. So the big point of all this research isn't to say, let's get rid of checklists. Not at all. Far from it. The point is to fundamentally rethink how we see them and, more importantly, how we use them. Because here's the thing. A checklist isn't just a list of items. As the famous safety expert Lucien Lape put it, it's a complex social tool. Its success or failure depends entirely on things like teamwork, communication, and the overall culture inside that operating room. So to make a checklist actually work, you need more than just a piece of paper. The research points to a few key things. You've got to train the entire team together, not in silos. You need real buy-in from everyone, especially senior staff. And this one is crucial. You have to create a psychologically safe environment where anyone feels they can speak up if something isn't right, without fear. It's about shared responsibility. And this brings us right to the core takeaway of the whole study. Relying only on the documented records can create a deeply false sense of security. I mean, this study proves it so brilliantly. We can't improve what we don't accurately measure. And that OR black box revealed a truth that the official record completely, totally missed. So this research leaves us with a really powerful final question. And it's not just about surgery, right? This applies to any field. Aviation, finance, you name it, where we rely on procedures and checklists to keep people safe. It challenges all of us to look beyond the paperwork, to look past the check marks, and to ask the tough question, what is really happening? Because that's where true safety lies.
Well, of course, we suggest that you use SafeStart to be the co-pilot for the execution of your checklist in the operating room. You can read through this slide sometime during one of my other presentations. The top issues to be considered are when checklists fail to stop never events, SafeStart keeps stopping those never events. Consider using SafeStart as a co-pilot for the checklists in your operating room to really eradicate never events. You can contact us at info@safestartmedical.com. Please feel free to send an email request. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. And thank you so much for your attention today.